bottom right of Disco Bloodbath. We've seen this map a lot today. The all-killer of Kaisi Gaming, FanTaSy. On the top left-hand side from Jinair Green Wings, our Red Zerg player, Rex. If you're just joining us, here is a format reminder. It's a best of 7 of best of 2s. What that means is each team has 4 lives. When a player comes out, so Rex and FanTaSy, they will play 2 maps against each other. If you win 1 map, the other player is eliminated. If the score overall between the 2 games goes 1-1, both players get eliminated. If one player goes 2-0, the other guy is eliminated, and the player that goes 2-0 gets to stay on and play again. That is the format here for the China Team Championship playoffs. As Rex, if he could pick up the 1 map against FanTaSy, as TVZ didn't look so bad the other day, Rex. When he played against Special, took a map on this map, won the game on this map to send Jinair through to the playoffs. Reaper on the way out in the main base. Did I miss much? If you've just tuned in, you've missed 4 hours of an amazing best of 7 between Jinair and Kaisi Gaming. This is our grand finals now. As we set this up, we get this started. Command center dropping down on the Naturals. Hatchery on the other side of the map as well. We get this set up. Second Rax from FanTaSy. Wow, a 2-on-1. Way to change things up and put the pressure on Rex early in the game. Drone going to drop down the 3rd hatch here on the top side of the map, so nothing too crazy out of Rex. He did generally prefer to play pretty much more straight-up macro-focused games. He has picked up 1 game in this playoff. He did take down Yeshi when he played TMLP in the first round of the playoffs yesterday. So he took a map off Yeshi. Rex has not been winless this weekend. Let's see what happens as that 2-1-1 setup comes in from FanTaSy. A factory dropping down. 2-1-1 gives you a lot of aggressive options, and of course, FanTaSy, I mean, in general lately has been playing quite aggressively in certain matchups, say especially TVP. We'll see if he has one of the more aggressive variants of this 2-on-1 lined up. That'll be something we figure out about 2 minutes from now. It's FanTaSy. 7-0 this weekend. What a performance that was. Again, can't quite get over that. That truly is something special, as we do see the Reaper setting out the frontier from FanTaSy, hanging out, and Queen gonna pull back a little bit as well. Creep Tumor cancelled, but not killed, so it can just respread there very quickly, very easily, no problems at all. Starport on the way up, Stimpack starting, and now Factory building up the reactors. Ling speed will be about to complete. Getting that Ling speed up and running, getting the Lings on the map. And do you see that inject popping off, and yeah, so far, so good. As the starport is about to complete, we obviously see those medevacts lined up, and Rex will get ready to receive this 2-1-1 attack. A couple of Marines will come forwards and try and deny this Overlord. I mean, at this stage it's Rex. You haven't seen Hellion, so you already have a pretty good idea of what this should be. As this Overlord will go down, a couple of medevacts will start up. This drone moves over to the 3rd mineral line here, and again, Evo Chamber coming along about halfway done. 10 Lings, couple Queens on the way out as well. These 2 Zergons of Rex continuing down to the bottom. There's an Engineering Bay as part of this wall-off, so Engineering Bay will wall off for a moment or 2. A couple of Lings going to go after the SCV, and looks like the SCV will go down. A couple of Queens working their way through the rocks. Here come the medevacts moving out from FanTaSy. The first attack here and first real test of Rex to see if he can hold. Rex's Carapace upgrade is kind of late, kind of slow, but it is kind of the typical response against this, right? I mean, if you go into a Carapace upgrade, those Marines are less effective firing on the Lings. Obviously, that's not going to be true for this first level drop. Advance is going to be forced to lift and leave here. This is not going to do that much. Going for the main base rather than just going off at the front and trying to pick off some creep. Now he's going to boost to the right-hand side. Next barracks on the way up, single engineering base. This is a more kind of all-in or pressure-focused, committed build from FanTaSy. Only one extra racks, no third CC, and only one engineering bay is the real sign of aggression here as FanTaSy lifts up, moves to the side again. So FanTaSy's looking to pick up momentum, pick up some good trades, and keep those trades going throughout this now. Engineering bay is about halfway done as you'll just see that siege tank about to pop out of the factory. More Marines, medevacs, tanks all gathering up together as we are going to be seeing the lair about to finish up in the main. So getting that lair completed in just a few moments time. Now Reaper heading up, leading the charge of these Marines. Good amount of units here on the right hand side, and there go two more siege tanks in this medevac of FanTaSy coming up into the middle. Seeing where it can go. FanTaSy going to press forwards. Looks like they'll just drop to this edge. He's going to try and push some pressure in over here. Those spore crawlers will take some damage. The lanes look like they might want to come in from the backside. No Baneling speed just yet, by the way. As the spores get pushed back, now the Marines will unload here. As you do see the Queen taking a little bit of damage. Spore crawlers will get shot down. The Lings are looking to come in for either the surround or the counter. I mean, looks like they will just go for the surround. FanTaSy going to lift up a few of the Marines here. I mean, there's no really much need in continuing to fight this, I feel. Should have just been a lift up, but you're still going to go for it. I mean, the Marines actually do end up pushing those Zerglings away. So FanTaSy trades out pretty well, all things considered. I'm surprised. Another round of units coming out through the center from FanTaSy, and he does have a third CC finally finishing. So, again, aggressive from FanTaSy, and that's what's allowed him to continue with these attacks. But now time to think about the future. Second engineering bay and armory as well. He's done a good job of this. He's put himself in a good position. It's now just time to take that good position and push into the next stage of this. Tanks firing. Zerglin is being shot down there. Marines gathering up with those tanks, and they are going to come out to the right-hand side. Marines just simming towards the hatchery already, in some trouble. Tanks will siege, and a couple of Zerglings picked off as well. Now hatchery being cancelled here, Ling Bane army. Thinking about perhaps moving forwards into this third orbital. Morphing in on the low ground there, so moving that into orbital command position, and you just continue to set up into this. Two more hatcheries dropping down on the map as Rex is down 20 supply currently. Now Rex does have a good lead on the 2-2 upgrade, so that is something at least he can look at and say, well, okay, maybe this can help me out a little bit. FanTaSy is still being aggressive. He's got Liberators sending forwards to attack and harass right now. As he pulls off a creep spread here, the tank fire is already good. Counter-attack does nothing. And again, those Liberators are poised to go into the natural and the third at the same time. FanTaSy hasn't started 2-2, so that is a little bit late. That is a little bit slow from where it should be. There's quite a few drones going down. You can see those tanks. You know where they want to go. They want to get themselves in that corner. Again, FanTaSy, another drop up into the main. Tanks that can cover this fourth base mineral line as well. Just one Liberator left now as Marines in high numbers into the main base. Queen going to get in some trouble. Baneling's moving around to the spawning pool. It's going to get picked up as those Marines lift back into the medevacs. Again, Baneling's attempting to counter, but tanks are just shutting them down time and time again, and FanTaSy is looking to increase his score this weekend to 8-0 in this first game against Rex. What's up, Solon 2000? Thank you so much for the 13-month resub on the Twitch Prime. Appreciate it as we see Marines just in really good numbers, and the tanks get some shots off, some damage done as these Lings run in to defend. FanTaSy is just in such an amazing position as those Banelings will continue to roll around on the right-hand side. Really intrigued as to where they're going to end up. More Lings just run forwards into this. The Banelings, again, I mean, the problem is FanTaSy just lifts and leaves as soon as those Lings and Banes become a real threat, and to then, to then run into that Marine force with the Ling Bane, you're going to be running into the tank fire, which isn't pretty. A few more Banelings around the right side. FanTaSy has had zero issue dealing with run by so far, and that will continue. Siege tank in the front will just turn those Banes away. No problem at all. In the main base, Queens have to trade out transfusions, and the medevac is lost. The other medevac low, shot down as well. Finally, Rex gets something to go his way. Finally, a trade that can better his position in this game. That's gonna. He had a good season, FanTaSy. And he continues in these playoffs. And there he is, the Blue Terran. Top left of Thunderbird. This is Rex's map pick. He says, let's go into the nice large macro map. So Rex's choice to play this game. Here on Thunderbird. Let's see what happens. Remember, FanTaSy, a second map win here means that he stays alive to play the next opponent, which is basically how Pixel 1 have played this up until this point of the playoffs. If Rex can find a map, he will knock FanTaSy off, and that will be a point on the board from Jin Air as well. Another game. Guess set to go. We're seeing the SCV through the center, down to the bottom right. See what's going on. Marin Trapper here. Jin Air brought their entire roster. Their entire roster. Everyone's here, apart from Creator. We haven't seen SOS this weekend, still. Do you guys reckon SOS just isn't on like the list of players they are deciding to send out, but they just flew him out anyways as a threat? That kind of feels like it, right? Like they've sent out Trap, Maru, Rogue, but they have yet to send out SOS. SOS is just there as moral support. I think SOS maybe just fancied a trip to China. The thing is, who do you send out SOS out instead of, right? SOS has not been as scary this year as he has been before now, and you know, it's kind of true, right? If you send out SOS, who are you sacrificing? Do you not send out Rogue? Do you not send out Maru? Probably you don't send out Trap, but Trap's been playing a really good year of StarCraft 2. His PvT is on point. That was a dead creep tumor there. Nice pick off by FanTaSy. Rex has a lair just after the 3-minute marker started, so that could be interesting. Don't underestimate how good SOS is in the Pro League format, but this isn't Pro League format. That's the issue. He has to win. The problem is you need someone that can win 2 maps without being defeated. And I feel like SOS right now doesn't quite have that consistency to win 2 maps and stay alive, you know, very comfortably. And that's the ideal way to go 2-0 rather than 1-1. That's the thing. I don't think SOS is a bad choice as 12-14 drones go down. FanTaSy just drives in and kills the mineral line. But you know, that's not the problem, right? It's just that Jin Air has so many other great options for who else you send out, you know? There's obviously, that's just FanTaSy just kills 14 drones. I mean, that was like 2 Hellions. Like, you know, I'm not shouting about it because I'm watching 2 Hellions drive into a mineral line. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is fine. 2 Hellions just killed 14 drones. FanTaSy is going to increase his scoreline to 9-0 this weekend. There is no way. FanTaSy, maybe FanTaSy gets MVP of the season. I don't know, man. Like, FanTaSy's been killing it. He's put Pixel. He's basically carried Pixel 1 on his back. As you see these Lings running in. I mean, Valkyries is on the way up as well, by the way, so that will help FanTaSy a lot to defend. He doesn't even lose his Hellions here. And this Nidus attack will not work out. And there's Lings and Queens. Over the side, I mean, waiting for the BC. The thing is, the BC will never die if it's got some repair underneath it, and that's pretty typical here because there's not going to be anything on the ground to actually kill the SCVs off. So BC goes straight onto the Queen's first transfusion is dropped. He's targeting the high energy Queen, which is the right decision. Targets the low health Queen now. Hellbats are in play. I mean, 13 SCV lost mean nothing at all because FanTaSy kept building SCVs throughout all of this. Rex obviously did not build any workers after losing, and that's Terran player. 9-0 this weekend. He doesn't know what it's like to lose. Pixel 1's FanTaSy. And in the top left-hand side, our red Zerg player, Jeanette Greenwing's Rogue. Rogue is also having a pretty good weekend, all things considered. 3-1 against Team LP. 7-1 against CSG. 10-2 coming into today. Now 11-3 after his games with Innovation. 11-3 versus 9-0. Who do you have? And of course, if you count the seeding match as well, Rogue 2-0 there. 13-3. Which is, I suppose, meant to be counted because FanTaSy also played 7-0 before. So here we are in this TVZ. FanTaSy openings gas before the racks, which isn't really like out of the ordinary or anything. It just means less likely to be a fast 3cc. Get that factory up a little bit faster. Just changes the pacing. You do see the SCV coming up to the top side, to the upper left. See what's going on. Factory dropping down then from FanTaSy. Jeanette Greenwings looking for their first point of the grand finals. Remember the prize pool here, $14,000 or so for first place. Second place, $7,000. Big difference between first and second here. And as you see, that Reaper is going to move across the map, deal some damage to a few Zerglings. Reaper dealing damage to the Zerglings there, and just going to be seeing the Reaper hopping up into the main. Mimitez Carapace coming through there as FanTaSy Starport beginning again. Double gas, no surprise after the gas first. And Rogue is going to open Mimitez Carapace early, obviously means that we're going to have some scouting from Rogue. No link speed yet. And this is nice from Rogue because it will give him information as to what's going on from FanTaSy. It tells us, okay, you know, he can see what's happening, he can scout that early. That goes a long way to helping as well, so I'm just going to be seeing the Reaper hiding over in the corner. We'll get some damage done, but no kills. Hellions now into the natural. FanTaSy will find 2 kills, and he's going to get some more. What is it with the Jeanette Zergs and losing workers to 2 Hellions? Okay, this isn't quite 14 kills, but it is 4. Not a bad opener. It forces a lot of lost mining time as well. A lot of running around, Spore Crawlers building and cancelling.
游戏暂停.
Pause comes in, looks like from our admin again, so hopefully only a couple of moments. This usually takes about a minute to resolve, so hopefully we'll get that fixed momentarily. So away we go. Resuming just like that. Hellions in the center of the map. Liberator on the way up. Stimpack starting. Viking up the right hand side there. Those Hellions still hanging out. Liberator on the way on the starport. Hellions coming forward. A couple of creep tumors. One kill, the other did get cancelled at least. These Hellions are running by. There's no ling speed available. Those drones are already lined up. Somehow doesn't kill anything other than one of them. 4 drones dead. 3 Hellions will continue forwards, and they're going to go for more of these drones. There goes 6. Here comes 9. How are these Hellions not getting those kills at times? I'm still surprised. Okay, it is 9 workers killed in the end, but that was a sizable number of Hellions this time at least. You know, killing those means that Rogue has less worry about what's kind of still on the map. It is still good damage from FanTaSy, but Rogue is also still at 15 workers, so I guess is it really that crazy? Not really. Just a few queens coming up to the top side. Gonna see a Spore Crawler is coming up to the top of that as well. Liberator is taking a few shots as it flies over toward the main base. Queen's gonna force that Liberator to turn around again. Carapace upgrade coming into play, and the Vikings doing some good damage to these Overlords. Overlords taking quite a few hits as they get pushed over to the natural expansion. So FanTaSy kind of low on that work count, definitely hurting. I mean, it's a good trade so far, but the amount of workers he's behind, I'm not sure if Rogue is really that troubled by it. Another siege tank does just that. Sieges on up. Liberator up on the top side here. More lings and queens down the left. Going to deal some damage to those rocks. So rocks taking a few hits there. Creep team is still spreading forwards. Tanks and marines just behind this wall off as well. 1 upgrades coming into play. 22 more Zerglings on the way out. Baneling Nest about halfway done. Well, FanTaSy, he's getting to that kind of stage of applying a bit more pressure. 2 medevacs have just finished, and that will be the point at which he can be a bit more aggressive, but they do need to get on the map, you know. He needs to do something to force a few more units out of Rogue, to clean up a bit of group spread. Rogue is currently just playing pure Ling Bane. No sign of a tech structure yet in form of Spire or Hydralisk Den is what you would be expecting here for the most part. That hatchery up on the top side. Marines, they are stimming forwards too. A couple of siege tanks sign up as well. Ling's already running forwards in a little bit of trouble. Baneling's getting picked away at, and well, FanTaSy does have to lift, but he will be able to relocate just behind these rocks and maybe still keep trading. He loses his tanks. Liberator in the main will harass. Rogue doesn't see it in time, loses the queen, and that'll be a couple drones to go down as well. Good trade by FanTaSy. I think he actually traded this very well overall. Now finishing 1-1 upgrades as this Liberator dances with the queen. The queen walks back into range of a creep as well. Rogue just not paying attention for a moment as now Marines are going to jump on queens at the front. Rogue misses the transfusion. And the second one, a bit too late there. Third queen doesn't quite go down. FanTaSy picking up damage though. Great job by FanTaSy. Still pure Ling Bane from Rogue, as that's a dead Overlord, but a dead Viking in return. Creep spread still keeps pushing out onto the map. A 5th hatchery from Rogue starts on the top side. That's actually an easily pushable base, or droppable base I should say, from FanTaSy. There's not a lot of creep around there. But pushing it's obviously hard because you have to go all the way up the top right corner and then across into it. So that's going to be real tough. As Rogue on 91 workers has a ridiculous amount of economy here. Is looking to hurt the economy of FanTaSy, as those few Balins will jump into this Dropper Lord. Tank setting up aggressively again, as FanTaSy is going to keep this aggression going. Let's see how his response to the Overlord drop is. He's attacking at the same time, so he's probably distracted. That is going to be, well, 11 dead SCVs. Not brilliant, but far from the end of the world. 11 workers is recoverable, as we do see these Marines going to kite off of creep again. Tanks need to try and target fire those Banes, and they do get a good few Banelings. Again, wasn't a bad trade from FanTaSy. His army supply still leads, but 90 drones means Rogue can rebuild again and again and again. And that's the issue FanTaSy is facing currently, as Hive starts from Rogue. He goes into that higher tech now. FanTaSy sees this base up here, will be able to unload, and this base currently undefended. Rogue, no units super nearby, will be able to obviously run some units towards that position. 94 drones now as a hatchery comes down the left, and there goes the Hive, and with the Hive, the Nidus Network 2. Time for Rogue to get a bit of aggression in this game as FanTaSy kills a drone, Spore. Hey, the hatchery's going to take some pretty serious damage here as well. He's just going to target the hatchery. Stim number 2. Medivacs will now evacuate those Marines. Loses a few Marines forward, but the hatchery kill is nice. FanTaSy is moving to deny the 5th base on the left side at the same time. Couple of Banelings into this mineral line. FanTaSy kind of knew about it, but still lets 11 SCVs die. Cancels the base on the left, so 5th base from Rogue not allowed so far. FanTaSy playing this well. As you do see the Medivacs in the main gonna have to pull away. Out over the top. Just gonna see a change in picked up. FanTaSy still getting into very good positions with these siege tanks. FanTaSy presses in again, still has a good army supply. Rogue on that Hive Tech is now going into the adrenal glands, into the Blitzbring carapace. Ultra's Cavern on the way up as well. As the Knights will drop into the main. Some Lings running around the back there, and Banelin's crashing in to clean up a couple of siege tanks too. Naturally on the top, going to finish shortly. Lings are pouring out of this Nidus network. Marines stimming over. Nidus is obviously going to be a bit of a nuisance, especially just with the Widow, the Banelings are coming out of it. Meanwhile, FanTaSy is pushing the top side base, trying to deny this once again. Baneling's going down. FanTaSy will have the units to still press forwards into this. A few more Banelings showing up though, and FanTaSy just doesn't save the Marines that he needs to keep this fight going. Just the Nidus is back at home. FanTaSy's reinforcements are struggling to really gather together because they're just getting picked off as they spawn. That Widow Mine was in danger of hitting more Marines than it would of Zerglings. FanTaSy has a few more units on the top. That base in trouble once again. He's also got units on the left-hand side. He's actually still fighting over here, and FanTaSy will clean up on the left, so he's still trading okay. 28 SCPs down at 3rd base, where he's lost a lot of those in the last few moments. But now he's killed 17 drones and counting. That 4th base really in some trouble. As we're going to see Marines finally lifting up here. We'll jump into the natural. 38 workers down. There's a drop. We'll run by into the natural mineral line. SCPs going down over there as well. It's a massacre of workers here. 64 across the board over the last few moments. These SCPs, I mean, I don't know where they want to be. Probably not actually all the way over there. That's a burrow in the corner. Not sure if FanTaSy will have seen it with so much going on around the map. Drone production has continued from Rogue though. So while losing 22, he's still up on 79. But he's down 30 army supply. First Ultra skill of the game coming up. He scans for a Ling on the CC. Doesn't get the one on the main. Those Marines are literally just watching a Nidus come up. This Liberator is going to find a few more drones as well. I mean, 6 workers is nice. Oh, those few SCVs are just out of position. They're running. Looks as though they will get away. This Nidus in the main base is shut down without problems here. FanTaSy within 12 workers of Rogue, but Rogue is hitting Ultralisks and the Hive Tech in general. The Spire on the way up for the Corruptors to deal with Liberator production. FanTaSy pushes to the left side again, looking to deny this base one more time. So here we go. Oh, the Baneling Bomb! I didn't even see it! Oh, Rogue. The burrowed Banelings, I didn't even see that there. I don't know what I was watching the hatchery. Oh, wow, that goes off, and that's a lot of Marines killed. That's obviously huge. Now we see these Zerglings around the right. I mean, it just slows FanTaSy down that little bit, although the worker counts are evening out. There's another Lings unburrow over here. He uses the Lings to put a Nidus down that 3rd base under attack again. Now FanTaSy is not going to have an answer to save his 4th base as the Lings get us around. The Bane scare the SCVs off. FanTaSy maintaining workers, but struggling to actually keep the bases alive suddenly. Oh my god, these Lings are everywhere again. Units are just not in position as there's... I mean, the Lings just burrow everywhere too, forcing scans. FanTaSy is struggling. The problem is with even-ish army supplies, you just don't end the game with a push across the map because Rogue will do what he did earlier, which is just about hold on again and again. The biggest issue for FanTaSy here is these Lings and burrow. The biggest issue has absolutely got to be the lack of a 4th command center. You can't just send your main base orbital over towards the 4th because it's an orbital. You need a planetary on that base. Bio will stim in here, and that's another dead Nidus, but this is the issue. Rogue has so many tools to keep FanTaSy at home. He never feels like he's under any pressure on the other side of the map, and FanTaSy did a great job of multitasking drops to keep Rogue under pressure. But yeah, it's just not working out. That is a Widowmine drop that picks up only a couple drones. Good response from Rogue to only lose 2. Now there's somehow Lings in the natural and the main again. Not sure if they were just burrowed from the start and they've only just popped up. They are just everywhere, and FanTaSy is really struggling to stabilize. And that's his big issue. A drop up this top side, but I mean, there's already Banelings here. What do you do? Send the Marauders forwards, Widowmine. Oh, gets the connection you might need. There's still a lot of Banelings, don't get me wrong, but that's the start of something at least, as we're going to see those Marines going to pull back. Let the Marauders tank. FanTaSy trades really well. Rogue is not paying attention to this. A drop into, or Nidus, sorry, into the main base. He'll kill the Overlord as well, get rid of further vision, or at least make Rogue pay for it in the future again. As FanTaSy loads up a big set of drops, heads out to the left-hand side. Still no 4th command center. That's the biggest issue here, is his drop will have to maybe unload onto that Nidus. He was sending some units over. 56 SCVs to the 80 drones. It just feels like Rogue has re-established and reset that economy of his own while keeping FanTaSy in trouble. Marines picking away at a Zergling there. Marines in the back are going to be able to get the Nidus. So that gets taken down. A bit more bio unloading. A couple of Balins this time found scanning ahead. There's a couple of Ultras. We haven't seen much of those yet this game. We've not really seen scenarios where the Ultras would really come into play. As Widowmine's clean up the Lings, the Ultras are kind of going to be on their own. FanTaSy might still be able to trade okay over here. You can kind of see he's going to be able to push the Ultras back. More Lings showing up. That's the issue. He's going to try and target fire down an Ultra. It's super low. If you could get it, it would be great. But he doesn't. Too many Zerglings, too much damage just consistently coming out. Nidus is across the map. Rogue will stop. Fantastic. Here we go. A Blue Terran in the top left-hand side is FanTaSy. And the bottom right, our red Zerg player is Rogue. What's up, Phoenix, with the Twitch Prime sub? Thank you so much. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for supporting the channel. Onwards and upwards. FanTaSy, can he find a way to take a map off Rogue? Take a point off of Jin Air here before he falls? What's up, Tryharder SC with the 13-month resub? This isn't marbles? No, we'll have marbles another day. It's been a long weekend. Lots of casting. What's up, Drano Mano with the Twitch Prime sub as well. Thank you so much. Thanks for the support, guys. Appreciate it as we set this up. Reaper on the way up. Command Center dropping down, getting this started. As we continue to get this underway. FanTaSy really putting up a fight. Even when he lost that game, it looked like he had real moments of opportunity. He really put up a fight, and to be fair, the only other person that's really put up much of a fight against Rogue this weekend was Innovation. I guess Patience won a map off Rogue in a very different kind of game, a very weird start to a game. Continuing on from there. Ling's just going in towards the Reaper, which is going to back away. Queen getting some more damage done. Command Center about to finish. Couple extra Hellions on the way up. FanTaSy really committed a lot of Hellions early the last game. I like the first 2, but the 6 afterwards just feel like, 9 workers. It just feels like Rogue just says, well, I'm just going to keep building drones. Those Hellions go down, and he came out like 15 workers ahead. At what point do you just realize that that's not worth it for the Hellions? At what point isn't it worth it? You're like, okay, yes, you're forcing more drones to be built, but you're also giving up a lot of your units, which are meant to have map control and some kind of a sway in some of the fights sometimes as well, so it's a tough one. Hellions setting up at the moment, as we are going to be seeing the Queens just coming over the left-hand side, and Does Carapace is coming up as well. Link Speed continue to come on in. Baneling Nest on the way up. Ooh, blocks the Baneling Nest with that drone coming down. So he's able to block the Baneling Nest from being built. We'll see if Rogue fixes that, because obviously if he doesn't, that could be a problem. Hellions will find 2 workers, and that should be about it. 3, maybe 1 more shot, 4. Again, that's 4 drones for 4 Hellions and the Reaper, which you kind of go back to the last one, isn't great. He's building a Marauder and a Medevac too. It feels like he wants to go for like a Hellbat Marauder attack, but if you're doing that, that's very costly to then lose your first 4 Hellions. Very interesting. Overlord scouting the main base. Armory is put down just after the Overlord goes down, so Rogue shouldn't know what this is. You know what? I don't think Rogue actually ever built the Baneling Nest. Okay, he starts it again now, or tries to. I mean, he's tried to start it much earlier on. There's a kind of a delayed Hellbat attack, though, actually, because, you know, these units have not really, at any point in the recent, you know, they've not really been built as fast as possible. Usually Hellbats hit about, you know, before 5 minutes, so Armory definitely a little bit delayed here as FanTaSy is trying to find a way to get some damage done. Rogue is droning heavily, though. Could still be in trouble if he doesn't have the right amount of units up when this attack comes over. He has no vision on the top left side of the map right now, bar 1 Zergling that's running in the top side past the 3rd base of FanTaSy at the moment. It might just stop there. No, it's going to keep going. Now that 1 Ling is going to get into the natural expansion. We're not being shown it. Depot's raised from FanTaSy, yet only saw the natural. There's Marauders and a few Marines in this attack coming. A couple of Hellions poking some creep spread. Now Rogue starts to make some Banelings. 4 Banes on the way up, but is that enough? I'm not convinced just yet. 38, 40, army supply to 20. Rotron building from Rogue won't be up just yet. Viking here too to help out. I mean, now Overlord scouts again from Rogue. He starts up a couple extra Banelings, but look how unity he actually, sorry, he brought SCVs, not Marines. I was wondering what those, I thought they were Marines, but I was like, when the heck did he build Marines? First Banelings don't do anything, to be honest, and now a couple more get through, but where are they going? Just on the front line, Hellbats in the end. SCVs trying to help out. The Marauders dealing some damage. The Medevac has to back away. Marauders and Hellbats left against these Queens. Viking landed too to deal some more damage. As the Zerglings build up, though, the reinforcing Hellbats are not going to be in high enough numbers to deal with the Zerglings that are on the way out, and the Queens look as though they will make a hold here. And Rogue survives this while on 61 workers. FanTaSy. This attack just doesn't go his way. Good defense by Rogue in the end. Man, I really felt like those Banelings didn't find anything, though, and I felt like that was kind of the problem more than anything. If those Hellions don't, if those Banelings don't find Hellbats, usually this goes very well, but the Queen's able to put up a defense. And why Marauders? Marauders do very well with the concussive shells. They slow the Queens, so the Queens can't kite the Hellbats forever. Oh, Lings into the natural. Well, a couple of Hellions are well positioned, and they need to be. As that depot was a moment too late, but FanTaSy is able to recover without losing too much. I liked it from FanTaSy. It was the right side of idea, I think. Rogue's macros EVT has looked absolutely terrifying. Throwing out a bit of an all-in instead, I think makes a lot more sense. You know, trying to do something a little bit more aggressive, something that is a little bit crazier. So you see the Roaches here going to pick up an SCV. Nidus Network is down from Rogue in the main base, and actually FanTaSy just will not be able to deny that. So that Nidus is going to come up, and Rogue might just end the game with these units pouring out. Roaches in production. Roach speed coming up, and here we go. Lings and Roaches pressing forwards as we do see the Wolof at the front in trouble. Units popping out in the main base. It's only really Hellions. They might do good against the Lings, but not against the Roaches or the Queens. SCVs are pulled into this fight as Rogue is looking to pick up the 2-0. Keep himself alive while taking FanTaSy out of the Pixel 1 lineup for now. FanTaSy, unfortunately, is looking as though he will not repeat. Well, I mean, he already dropped a map.